In today's video, I'm going to show you how to take a stamped handprint and turn it into a cute framed piece of art to display in your home. If you're new to my channel, my name is Karley Hall and I'm a self-proclaimed Cricut and craft expert. So if you are interested in Cricut tutorials, I post here on YouTube every single week. And if that is something that interests you, make sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on those notifications so that you don't miss any tutorials. For today's project, you will only need a few things. You'll need a piece of cardstock to stamp your handprint, a stamp pad or paint if you want to use paint, and then you'll need a phone or camera to take a picture of that handprint, and your Cricut machine and a home printer. Okay, let's get started. I already have my child's handprint on my cardstock, and I tried to position it where I would have enough white space if I wanted to just trace the frame's picture and then cut it by hand. I could do that. So I did try to get his hand in the middle of my paper so that I could trace it. So if you're not using your Cricut, you would just take a pencil, trace it, and cut it, and you're done. Since I wanted to make a few of these as gifts, I decided that I wanted to take a photo of it and then bring it into Cricut Design Space. So I have my handprint lined up, and I'm just going to use my phone for this. Open the camera app, and then I'm going to line it up so that the paper is in full view. I want to capture the entire page so that I know the dimensions so that my handprint is the correct size. So I snapped my picture. Now that I have my photo, I'm going to click Edit at the very bottom, and I'm going to crop into my photo so that I just have the page in my photo. So I have my 8.5 by 11 photo cropped in there. If it doesn't look like it's bright enough or I need to adjust the contrast, I can also play with the settings here and kind of just scroll through and change anything that I need to adjust so that my handprint looks the way that I want. So you'll click Done, and then I'm going to send it to myself. So if you have an iPhone to a Mac computer, you can AirDrop it, or if you don't, you can email it to yourself. So you'll just click on this share icon down here and then choose however you want to send it. So if you want to email it, message it, or AirDrop it, go ahead and share it however you'd like. I'm going to AirDrop it. So it came into my downloads, and now on my computer screen, you can see my handprint. So the way that my camera sent the file is an HEIC file, and Cricut will not allow you to upload that type of file. So you have a few options. You can save it as a different version. So you can click duplicate. If you're on a Mac, I'm just using the preview, and you can duplicate it. And then once you click out of the X, it will give you a different option to save it as a PNG. So I can just call this handprint and save it to my desktop. Next, I'll open up Cricut Design Space, and I'm going to click on the upload option. Here, I'm going to choose pattern fill. So instead of image, I'm choosing pattern fill, and I'm going to click upload pattern, then browse and choose my handprint. So you can see my full sheet of paper is in view, and I'm just going to call that handprint and click upload. Note that you will not see your handprint when it uploads. When you upload a pattern fill, you won't see it in this recent uploads option. Next, you'll go back to your canvas and you'll create a shape to fit your frame. If you're not using the same frame that I'm using, you can just add a rectangle or a circle or whatever shape your frame is. Since my frame is an art shape, I'm going to use this oval shape and a square to make a perfect art shape. So I'm just going to drop that in, and I want the bottom to be a squared edge. So I'm going to grab a square, and I want that same width to be 4.25. Let's redo this, 4.25. And then I'm going to align these to the bottom to see where they line up, and align it to the center. And now you can see I have that perfect arch shape using free images. and I want to select both of them and weld them together. So I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to unlock the proportions and bring it down to 6, make it a little squattier. Okay, so I have my arch, and now we need to bring our image into the arch. So to do that, up at the top, we're going to change this basic operation type to print then cut. Now, if I were to print this right now, it would just print out gray, which is not what I want. I want to tell it I want the handprint inside. So I'm going to click on the swatch and then choose this drop down here where it says pattern. And remember, we uploaded our own pattern. Your picture should be somewhere in here. If you can't see it because your handprint is all white, you may just need to kind of play around and choose different options until you find it. It's not the best with trying to filter through. The only filter options are the colors. So if you tagged a color on the upload screen, you could filter it to the colors. I probably should have done that. So I can see my handprint right here. So I'm going to choose that. And you can see it just filled it in sideways, which is not what I want. So to adjust this, we're going to click Edit Pattern. I'm going to rotate it -90 degrees to flip my handprint. And then I need to scale it so that it will fit. So for this part, you just need to toy around and play with where the handprint is falling. And you can see as I'm clicking over here, it's slowly moving. So I know that it needs to come over a bunch. So I'm just going to type in a value, a random value, and just kind of get it to the position that I want. And I'm not going to get this perfect just yet because I want to ensure my handprint is the correct size. So I just roughly scaled it so that I could find the handprint. And then I need to still measure out my handprint to ensure it's the right size. So I'm going to leave it there for now. And these are the numbers that I ended up with, but I will need to adjust the scale in just a second. So I'm going to click out of this. All right, so I have my handprint roughly placed on my background shape, but I want to make sure it's the right size. So I'm going to measure my handprint from the top of the finger to the bottom of the palm, and it's 3.7 inches tall. So I'm going to add a reference shape to my canvas, just a square will work, and then type out 3.75. In full transparency, I did do this in a different program when I made mine originally, but you can do this in Design Space. It's just a little wonky. This isn't the best software to do it, but it is free, so I will show it to you in this version. I used Adobe Illustrator to do this a lot quicker. So now I have my reference square, and you can see that my handprint is not big enough. So I'm going to drop these to the bottom so we can see it when I open up my panel. And I'm just going to place my handprint and my reference square kind of next to it. So we'll click on the swatch again. We'll click Edit Pattern. And now we're going to scale it. So I'm at 173 now. So let's just jump to 200 and see what that puts us at. And it's not a live preview, so it will jump here, but it won't show down here, unfortunately. And since I rotated my image, when I want to shift it to the left and right, I'm using the vertical because I rotated it, which is kind of silly that it doesn't update, but that's okay. I'll just use the vertical to move horizontal and the horizontal to move vertical. So I'll X this out, and now we'll see if it's closer. It's pretty close. I could probably skew it up just a hair more. You'll notice that my picture of my paper was a cream color, which I actually love, and that's why I recommended leaving the entire image in your photo so that you had a lot of negative space to move that handprint around. So I like the color that the photo ended up being. I didn't want a pure white, and I think that looks great. Okay, this is Editing Karley jumping in here, and I did want to mention something as I was editing this. There is a different way to do this, so I'm going to show you. Instead of uploading the pattern, let's hide this on our canvas for a second. Instead of uploading your handprint as a pattern, we're going to assume that we just made the arch shape in Design Space, and now we're ready to add the handprint. So going back, we're going to click Upload, and on the image option, you're going to click Upload Image. Choose your handprint, and then we're going to choose Complex. Either of the ways that I'm showing you will work, but this is a different option. So if you want to change the color of your arch, you can do it this way. So we're going to choose Complex, click Continue. If you have an access subscription, you can automatically remove the background. Since this account does not, I'm going to manually select. So you're going to click on the areas of the image you want to remove. So I'm going to click on the white space and this black area. If it doesn't click or it's giving you a hard time, you can use the eraser. Let's make it nice and big and just erase out any of the specks along the edge. Once you have everything erased, you can preview to see what the shape will look like. If you were to just cut it, we're not going to cut it, we're printing it, but that will give you a good idea. I am going to leave all these little smudges around the fingers because I think that's cute and that's how the handprint actually looks. And then I'm going to crop in to the handprint really tight. So I'm just dragging this around and cropping it. Okay, that looks great. So we're going to click apply and continue. And I'm going to save it as a print then cut image and call it handprint. Now when I choose upload, you can see that it is in my uploaded images, and we'll click on that and then add to the canvas. I still want my arch to be like a creamy color, so I'm going to choose an advanced option here and play around with the colors so that I have like a nice creamy white color. I'm going to rotate this -90 or 270 like we did earlier. And then now, instead of messing with the scaling, I'm going to rotate this so that it's up and down, more straight than the other handprint that I was doing earlier. And I want from the tip of this to the bottom of the hand, that's 3.75. So since I just skewed that, I'm going to type it in anyway. We'll see what happens. And then I'll use a reference rectangle similar to how I did before. So here's my handprint. And then just to make sure, I actually do want it rotated a little bit more. We'll bring in a shape. And you can see that from the tip to the bottom is about 3.75. So that is another way to add the handprint. And then to combine the arch and the handprint together, you can mess around with this and position it wherever you want just by freely moving it, which is a little easier than playing with the fill. The only reason I didn't opt for this is because it does look a little less real since there are some more rough edges. So I do prefer the fill option in terms of the final look, but in terms of ease of use, this is a lot easier to do. So now I would flatten these together, and then we'd move on to the next step that I will show you that will work for both of the options. Next, we'll add the text. So I'm just going to type out some initials and choose a font that I want. Font choosing, honestly, I think it's the hardest part of any project. I'm going to use a system font. I wanted a more traditional looking font, so I'm going to do something like this, and I want it to be black, so I'm going to choose black. And I'm going to just resize it. So I have my initials, and next I'm going to add another line of text so that I know how old he was when he did this handprint. So you can type out how old they are in months or years. I want to change that to black, so I'm going to adjust that and then resize it. I'll group them together so that I can move them. I don't love how they looked aligned, centered, the whole thing. I thought it was a little too scooched over, so I just visually decided where the center was going to be on where I wanted it. And if I zoom out, I think I want my handprint a little higher, so I'm going to adjust that, just make some final adjustments. So once you're happy with your text, your handprint placement, and everything looks good to you, we are going to flatten this all together. So I want to tell the Cricut that I want this printed on top and not just cut out. So to do that, I'm going to highlight everything and choose flatten. And now you'll see on the right that there is just one print then cut layer. And I want to make 2 copies of these so that I can do 2 at a time since I have 2 frames. And my printable area on a Cricut is 9.25 by 6.75, so I can print 2 on 1 page, so long as I tell the Cricut to do that. So I'm going to squish these together and click attach. And now we'll click Make It. So you can see I can fit 2 of those on a page, which is great. And I'm going to click Continue On. We'll send it to the printer. I'm using a wide format craft room printer. As always, I will link everything in the video description. This is a great printer and it's around $200. I always turn the bleed on. The bleed will add a little bit of extra cream ink around the edge so that I don't get any white edges. And then I'm going to click Use System Dialog. And when I click Print, it won't actually start printing. It will open up my settings. So I'm going to open up my settings. This window will pop up. I want to feed from the rear tray. Media type, I'm going to choose photo, and then I'm going to do best for the quality. And I'll make sure that my paper is loaded into my printer. So I have my paper loaded into the rear tray of my printer, and then I'll click Print. My print just finished printing, so now I'm going to cut it on my Cricut. And to do that, I just need to tell my Cricut what material I'm using. I'm using medium cardstock, and I'm going to increase the pressure to more. And we'll load that onto our machine cutting mat. And you'll want to pay attention to the orientation on the left side of your screen so you can see that the handprints are oriented this direction. So I'll load that onto my mat, and then I'll load that into my machine. I'll click the flashing go button. The Cricut will scan this black line around your prints, and then it will determine where to cut. So now it's cutting. To prevent my handprints from bending, I always flip my mat over and push away onto my desk. You can see how cute the handprint turned out. And instead of having to make my child reprint his hand over and over, I can just make several prints using my Cricut machine. I'll open up my frame. I'm just going to place a piece of rolled tape right in the middle and then position it inside the frame. I could definitely futz with that for a lot longer and make sure that that's perfectly aligned. But for the purposes of this video, you can see you just put it in your frame. And now, instead of making your child hand print their print over and over, you can print out as many of these as you want and gift them to all of your relatives that would appreciate a handprint from your child. If you need any of the supplies in today's video, everything will be linked in the video description. And if you decide to make this project, make sure to tag me. I love seeing your creations using the tutorials that I've made. So if you found this helpful, make sure to like it and consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.